In the real world, Formula 3 is a proving ground for many a young driver. A step on the open wheel ladder in which things really start to get serious, you see some future greats begin to shine. Here in the PRL, the F3 series has become one of the most competitive on the surface. And among those talents who have shown brightest, David Holland has claimed multiple championships. With the new season starting, he's the man with the target on his back. We'll see if anyone is able to step up to challenge him as we get ready to watch round one of the PRL Formula 3 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sam Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Speaking of the real world in F3, Zandvoort has hosted the Masters of Formula 3 event for multiple decades, so it's fitting that we kick things off here in the Netherlands. Let's get a closer look at the track our competitors are about to do battle on. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. Zandvoort has, of course, recently seen some updates, but we're still racing on the version before we've got all that new banking. So, Sam, why don't you run our audience down on how this car and this track are going to interact today?
Yeah, and here, Joe, you kind of get an idea of why some people, before Zandvoort was announced as a Formula One Grand Prix circuit, were questioning it. It is kind of small, kind of tight, kind of narrow in places, and that's why they have had to make modifications. Just about 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers in length, 13 corners, very twisty, not a whole lot of room for passing out here. Obviously, the long run down the front straight and into the tight turn 1 is probably your best passing opportunity, but we'll see what these guys can do. It's the first race of the season, so we have a massive field, and I'm sure there'll be some great battles out there for us to watch.
Yeah, certainly should be, especially with a large field. But before we get to that field, let's mention our sponsor, NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trading simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. It's also brought to you by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com. Big thanks to our sponsors for this season. And let's look at last season real quick, the championship. I mentioned David Holland with another one to his belt. About 73 points ahead of David Soroy. Greg Seitz actually slipped down to third in the final race. Unfortunately, had DNF in that last round, and that did not help things as they were not allowed to drop the points on those ones. So that counted as a 0. Rod Clenard and Nicholas Delp round out the top 5, a little bit spaced apart as things kind of spread out as things went on. What about the team's championship, though, Sam? How did that wind up?
Well, Vantage Zero ended up winning the team's championship by 59 points over Vantage Rosso. Rust Racing came home in third place on the podium there in the team championship, only 5 points ahead of Davidson Motorsport. Lavoie Motorsport made it also into the top 5.
Now, if we have viewers who are tuning in for the first time, this is probably a good time to do so, with it being the first round, but let's run over the race details. It is a 45-minute race, nothing has changed there, and it is an open setup just like it has been in previous seasons. One thing that has changed, remember we've had that disqualification for incidents. Now they have a bit of a warning ahead of the time. You get a stop and go penalty at 11x. So if they get 11 incidents out on track, that's where they're sent in the pits. They have to come to their pit stall, come to a halt for a certain amount of seconds, and they get back out. And then the 20 incidents is where they are removed from the track and they are no longer allowed to race. Bonus points are the same as well. You can see pole fastest lap and 3 incidents or less. They're on offer. And as always, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. Very easy to do so. If you scroll below the video here on YouTube and you see a big red button that says subscribe, then you know you haven't yet. Click it and you won't miss a moment here on IESN. In qualifying, same 2 names that we saw up at the top of much of last season, David Holland and Greg Seitz on the front row provisionally. We've still got 7 minutes left to go, and it is very tight behind them. I see a new name, Mitchell Green, and a name we're familiar with, David Soroy, both within a tenth of Seitz.
Yeah, and it is going to be exciting, but also a little worrisome if we see David Holland and Greg Seitz on that front row, Joe, because even though they are arguably 2 of the, if not the 2, fastest drivers in this league, in this car, last season, in our 12-race season, they came together fighting for the lead 3 times. Netcode was to blame each time, but at a certain point, you've got to realize that you can only blame netcode so much. Hopefully, they give each other a little bit more space, do a little bit of social distancing out there, and we'll see them cross the line all 12 times this season.
Keeping it topical here, Sam. David Holland actually just put a little bit of a quicker lap in, so he's now 0.3, and that's come right back down because Greg Seitz responds, but he doesn't go quicker. Still got about a tenth and a half to make up to Holland, and he's taken it into the pits to bring it back out. Now, I find it curious that he has gone into the pits because one thing we've seen a lot with these tires, which I believe they introduced last season, is it seems to take a bit for them to get up to temperature. So it's not like we can necessarily see him go out and just put a hot lap in at first try.
Yeah, well, that might be why some drivers opt in to come into the pits now if they're not happy with their setup or whatever. That they'll still have enough time to get a warm-up lap or 2 out there with 5 minutes left in qualifying. But yeah, I agree with you. You don't want to be pitting, in a couple moments' time because you do want to have a bit of warmth in your tires out there.
Rod Clenard has actually moved himself up into 3rd, so that pushes Mitchell Green out into 4th place on the outside of row 2 to watch Rosenbaum try to improve, and he does not that time by. Talking about warmth, why don't we take a look at the temperature? And it's just about ideal conditions. It's not super cold out there, but it's also not super hot on the track surface. Really, the more of the concern is it looks like we got a strong wind blowing out into the sea today, because look at that, 16 miles an hour on aero cars. This does not bode well.
No, absolutely. And that wind's not going away. I checked it about 5 minutes ago, and it was very similar to what you see there. So we'll wait and see how that affects it. Obviously, the good news is the drivers have had a 3-hour practice session leading into this 15-minute qualifying session. So if there is a constant wind, hopefully they've gotten used to dealing with it by now.
Josh Daniels also not managing to go any quicker. I'm taking a look at David McDonald behind him, who is in 12th. This time by does go faster. It's a 29.3, and that gets him a single spot. He's now to 11th. was talking about that close gap that we saw before to Seitz with his improvement earlier. It is now moved Rod Clenard about 0.2 away from him, but Mitchell Green is within about 13 hundredths of a second, 13 thousandths of a second of Rod Clenard, and Soroy is still within 200ths of Mitchell Green. So really, the front of the field has small margins between them.
Yeah, and this is a tricky qualifying session for these drivers. It's only 15 minutes long. It takes about a minute and a half to do a lap around here. But, so, already you're limited on the amount of laps you can do, but you have 38 cars out there, and it's a relatively small racetrack. There's a wide variety in the times. Our fastest laps are 1 minute 28. The slowest lap right now is 1 minute 34. So, 6 seconds span in the whole field. Granted, that's over 36 cars. It's expected that you'll see a little bit of a spread with that being the case. So these drivers are having to fight traffic, they are having to fight the clock, and they are having to fight a very tricky race course. And, there might be some drivers who are a little bit out of place after qualifying here. We'll wait and see who our big movers are in the race, and also if we have some drivers who maybe got a good lap in but dropped back through the field. I think we're going to see quite a bit of action in the opening laps.
Watching Raymond Day there, the Club West driver not able to go any quicker on that 29.1. Still has about 7/10 to try and get up to the top of the timing sheets, as well as 2/10 to get to Kranefuss, who is in 8th. Sam Herner is sitting ahead of him in 7th, we just saw on screen. What about Rosenbaum this time by? Looks like he also is not able to go any quicker, running just around a minute and a half for most of the drivers in that range. Here's Ponick as well. Stays in 27th. That looks like that was an outlap, actually.
Well, this car will be easy to spot during the race. Let's see if he makes himself a bit easier to spot on the leaderboard with a good lap around here.
Well, I guess he figured he was in the Netherlands, so might as well put a lot of orange on. And it seems like it did help him go a little bit faster because he moved up to 19th. Brett Thurman, on this one, just missed. Oh, he's 16th, I see. I was trying to catch on the screen there. Stephen Verity stays in 12th, so he does not improve. Less than a minute left, too. Looks like Dzube is not going to be able to get a lap in, judging by his spin there. Actually, he might be able to start one, because that looks like that was on Lyondike. That's the final corner.
Yeah, that could kill your momentum, though, getting to the start-finish line. But yeah, sure enough, Joe, we're getting ready to start the final moments. Obviously, if you see some drivers duck into the pits, that means they know their lap time isn't any good, and they want to get one last practice of pit entry in, because they will have to make a scheduled pit stop during today's race.
That's a good point. We haven't talked about that. And that is a pit entry that does need practice. Lionel Duprat stays in 10th as Basigalupo. That's a name we haven't seen in a minute. Trying to see where he wound up. Looks like 15th. And that last lap was not his best as the checkered flag now comes out. Who's going to be our first to complete their qualifying? I think it's going to be Kevin Santana, who is unusually low. And 18th, he's really got to try and pick up the pace. He does by about 3/10, but that only puts him in 12th.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot better starting up there, though, than towards the back. So good on him, finding 3/10 right at the last moment of asking there. Let's see if anyone else can copy him.
Ooh, Verity does. He goes up to 9th with a 29.1. And Greg Seitz. Oh, Greg Seitz up to the pole by 1/100th of a second over David Holland, who is in the pits, so he is not able to respond. What about Mitchell Green? He's coming to the line now. He's one of the close ones that could maybe get into the mix. And as he does cross, it looks like that doesn't count. Seitz seems pretty safe for the pole at this point.
Yeah, so a couple of drivers getting nice laps in right at the last moment of asking. I believe this is Sheldon Rosenbaum we have on camera here, and he's looks like he's coming into the pits. Yep, going to practice that pit entry. One car left here. No, he's coming in too. I think this might be done. Oh no, there he goes, just driving over towards the pit wall, trying
Yeah.
to celebrate his qualifying time with his team.
That did not improve for Daniel Barnett, who we were watching. Eventually, I'll get his name out. But that is our qualifying. So let's go through the starting order of this relatively large field for the first race of the season. Greg Seitz, as I mentioned, just snuck into the pole ahead of David Holland. I think he's hungry to try and take that championship. Rod Clenard will be starting in third behind them. Then it's Mitchell Green in P4 with David Soroy starting in fifth. Mauricio Quero starts in sixth with Samuel Herner starting in seventh position. David Cranefoos will be P8, and Stephen Verity in that last lap managed to put it in ninth. Then the top 10 is rounded out by Raymond Day, who usually we see much higher up the order.
Yeah, Lionel Duprat will be starting down there in 11th ahead of David McDonald. Kevin Santana will start from 13th place ahead of Matt Quinn. Rounding out the top 15 will be Joshua Daniels, and rounding out row number 8 will be Lucas Basquialupo. Alex Guillaume will be starting all the way back in 17th place ahead of Brett Thurman. Right now, we're about the halfway point of the field. Owen McLaughlin will be starting from 19th ahead of Sheldon Rosenthal.
Christopher Richards is on the inside of the next row in 21st with Rain Pavlovich in 22nd. You've got Olivier Legault in 23rd, newcomer to the series, and then a veteran, Andy Spicer, starting in 24th. Another driver we've seen a lot here in PRL, Tyler DeZube, starts in 25th. Eduardo Gach is in P26 with Sebastian Prue in 27th and James David in 28th. And it's Mark Ponick in 29th, and Lauren Sebastian starts 30th today.
Yeah, and then these drivers rounding out the field: Matthew Gunderson, Tyler Gore, Daniel Barnett, David Blackwood, David Herbert, and Paul Cliff, the last driver to turn the time. A couple of drivers there who did not turn the time in qualifying, but they're in the session, so hopefully we have a 38-car field. Well, it's Zandvoort, and they have the new damage model on these F3 cars, Joe, so let's see if anyone tries to Villeneuve it around on three wheels if we have a bad start here.
But hopefully that won't be the case. Also, apologies that we've lost picture momentarily. We'll try to get it back here in a second. But yeah, this track could be prone to track blockages because of some of the more narrow parts where there is no runoff. Hugenholtz is a corner that comes to mind, as I think we're just down to a couple cars that we're waiting on, and I do see everyone still in the session, so we should have all 38 runners start today. That's going to be a big field, appropriate here at a race that tended to have that Masters of Formula 3 event. As the clock ticks down, the time is out to grid. You better be out there because the lights are up, the engines are revving, and the green flag is out on the opening round. Greg Seitz with a horrible start, unfortunately, to his inside. David Holland already has the desired line, and he might even get overtaken by Rod Clenard, who's looking to try and sneak his way into there. He's not able to get it, but our new leader is already David Holland, as Soroy falls in line in fourth, little side-by-side for fifth with Mauricio Quero, and Mitchell Green getting overtaken by him.
Yeah, watching the field funnel its way through the first sector. It's all been all clean so far, but still have some battles going on throughout the field as they work their way. Oh, we got trouble at the back.
Yeah, I see Gunderson involved in it. Gach is involved in it. A lot of cars, unfortunately. It collected at least half a dozen. So as we continue to watch our leaders, we'll get back to that replay in a minute. But David Holland leading ahead of Greg Seitz. And then Rod Clenard with a lot of pressure from behind as David Soroy is just right underneath that rear wing.
Of course, this is a time race. Don't know how many laps this will be, but they're coming around to complete their first lap. About 90 seconds around here, so use that to do your math if you're a math whiz. But right now, I'll tell you the math is that David Holland started second. He's up to first, and I'm sure he intends to keep it there and get off to his championship defense with a W today. But there'll be strategy to play throughout the race for Greg Seitz to see if he can do the leapfrog on the track or on pit road. They come around to complete the first lap.
Soroy looked like he had a good run there, but nothing doing. We saw someone looking to the inside farther down. I think that is McDonald. Oh, we got a car off just in front of him. That's Verity.
He just overshot turn one. Stephen Verity and there's another car who's done the same thing. Well, if oil on iRacing was thin, I'd blame that. But yeah, 2 cars just completely overshot the first corner.
Well, it is first lap, so tires could still be a bit cold, unfortunately. Maybe that's what caught them out. Hopefully, that won't be an issue as they start to get up to temperature. I think we're clear enough that maybe we could get a look at the replay. Yeah, I think we don't have as much action, so let's take a look at what exactly happened here. Didn't even get to see what started it myself.
Well, this is actually quite telling. This isn't the replay we wanted, Joe, but that's just telling itself the amount of cars we have into the pits at the end of the first lap.
I think Gok is the first one to make contact here. No, he's not, actually. Andy Spicer is. He got together with Sebastian Prue, and there you see the melee that just ensued. That is one of those narrow points I talked about, with drivers having nearly no place to go. Oh, so many collected. A lot of parts flying, too.
Yeah, some cars able to work our way through. Once, we get a couple of laps on the board, we'll be able to give you a casualty report of who's out and who's just lost a lap or two.
We've come back live. Fans of Daniel Cranefoos, he had a slowdown penalty in the latter part of the lap, and that sent him down to 12th place, unfortunately. So we are watching our leader, David Holland, work his way through the S's, coming up the hill. Still being chased by Greg Seitz. It's about half a second between them. They're starting to drop Rod Clenard. It's 1.2 seconds to the third place driver, where he's also got David Soroy on him. And then you have another gap back to fifth for Green, about 1.2 to him as well.
Yes, the leaders have kind of got themselves sorted out early on, and fortunately for the drivers who have gotten off to a good start, as we mentioned, this isn't the easiest track to make a pass on, so they might be sitting safer now. This is a potential passing opportunity, this chicane. You have a little bit of a run down to it, and you can try and attempt to cross over on the exit as well, so hopefully we'll see some excitement there as the race goes on.
Yep, we're right in on board with Mauricio now, giving chase on Green, exiting Lyondike, one of those critical corners. You talked about it before, Sam, needing your momentum down this front stretch, and he looks decent, but I don't think he's quite close enough, although he is following in the draft as much as possible here.
And yeah, taking a little bit of a peek as well. One thing that these leaders will have to deal with before too long, just due to how ugly that opening lap was with that wreck at the back, is lap traffic. Matthew Gunderson is the last car on the lead lap in 34th. He's only a few seconds up the road from the leaders. So, that could be something that affects the outcome of this race. We'll have to wait and see. But it's also nice to see that the car he's up to 32nd now. The car in 32nd is still on the lead lap, so that means we've only lost 6 cars at most there.
I almost lost another because Christopher Richards had a little spin that was into Hugenholtz. Don't really need a replay, but he's got it going again. He didn't hit anything. Meanwhile, in 8th position, a little bit of a train of cars forming. Sam Hermer being followed by McDonald, Duprat, Santana, Cranefoos. Actually, this goes back quite a ways.
Yeah, and they'll be wishing the best for Samuel Herner here. Normally, people named Samuel on iRacing have a bit of a curse against them. But fortunately for Samuel Herner right now, he's holding on quite well in 8th position. But as you mentioned, a bit of a train forming behind him. And we'll see if anyone attempts to move down the front straight here.
Seems like they're well far enough apart. It's behind them that it's starting to heat up. That starts with Matt Quinn, Spicer, Guion, Daniels, Bacigalupo all in there. Is anybody going to poke their nose out? A little bit of a defense there from Guion, and he's definitely, actually he's going to be an attack as they go 3 wide off the corner. Oh, but it's going to come to a head as Josh Daniel finds himself off the course with Spicer tangled in his car.
Yeah, and that was lap traffic for you. A 3-way battle for position. Caught the lap car of Andy Spicer. Andy tried to stay out of the way as much as he could, but unfortunately they just ran out of racetrack. So that's a combination of lap traffic and a narrow racing circuit there, unfortunately.
And you can see when tires touch tires on open wheel cars, it is bad news. Almost hopped it up and over, but thankfully didn't actually tumble. Unfortunately, I think the car is still done for the day from the looks of it in pit lane. Looking at 13th, it seems that Matt Quinn is being chased by Guion and Bascalupo in the interim. We got a car off track. That was Cranefoos losing more positions.
Definitely not the start that Cranefoos wants. Here goes Lucas. He's making a move. He makes that move successfully. Here's a replay of what happened to Cranefoos.
Yeah, we switched away to see what happened to the Buckeye, and this is into Renault right here. The next one is the left-hander Vodafone, which is where we saw him off track. Around it went very early in the corner.
One thing that's easy to overlook, Joe, is that there are a lot of right-handers on this course, and sometimes I wonder if drivers set their cars up to turn a little bit better on the right-handers around here. Maybe that upsets the cars a little bit more, unlike the 2 or 3 left-handers we actually have on this track.
Could be. This battle stays very close in this group. I'm keeping half an eye as well on the leaders, because Seitz caught up to Holland, and they were lapping the car of Matthew Gunderson, which did slow them up slightly. But I think he was catching him before they got to the back of Gunderson. I get the feeling that Seitz is starting to pick up the pace.
Yeah, well, he was the fastest qualifier, granted by only 1/100th of a second. The only reason he's not leading the race is he got off to a bad start. But, there's some tracks where running in second place might not be a bad idea. You might be able to save a bit of fuel. Unfortunately, I don't think Zandvoort is the kind of track that leads itself to fuel conservation. But, every little helps. If Greg realizes he's not close enough to make a move on David Holland here, which, let's be frank, he's not. He might opt to lift off the gas a little bit and just ride in second for now, save fuel, and create some strategy options later in the race.
There's the lap comparison at the bottom of your screen. Holland was quicker those first 2 laps of the 5 that we're looking at, and then it seemed like he lost a decent chunk after that. So not sure. Maybe it was the lap traffic that started to slow him up in the dirty air, but hard to tell.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens as we're approaching the 10-minute mark. I don't think Greg Seitz is doing any kind of conserving, to be honest. He is all over the gearbox of Holland. He might be trying to get this lead the hard way. Unfortunately, in those 3 times that we mentioned these two came together last season because of netcode, I think Seitz came off worse all 3 times that happened.
He did indeed. He was wrecked out, all 3 of them, I want to say, including in the final race at Watkins Glen. Fans of Cranefoos, he's taking it into pit lane. This is definitely not scheduled. I believe he might be done for the day. This battle has been hovering close, but I don't think anything's going to happen right now. It looks like he's just stalking him. Let's head back to that battle for 13th, which is led by Basagalupo. Guion and the 808 is following him, and he's got a whole bunch of friends in tow. That's Thurman, Verity, and McLaughlin.
Yeah, forget what happened to Verity earlier, but he's obviously much further back than where he started. He started 9th, he's in 16th, so he'll be in a hurry to try and get by these cars. He should have a nice run here on down the front straight with all of them punching a hole in the air for him.
Thurman does too. He goes to the inside, and he's got it down into the braking. He holds it tight to the line. Excellent textbook maneuver. Still side by side with Verity trying to sneak through as well on Alex Guion. But it looks like Alex is able to defend. He goes a bit wide. And Gerlach, then it swings back the other way here into Hugenholtz. And finally, they're able to get back onto the power up and over the crest. Still nervous moments for the 808.
For those of you trying to recall what happened to Verity, he ran off on turn 1 on his own, so that's what's put him back here. So obviously he would have been kicking himself a little bit for that mistake earlier, and I'm sure now that he's got his bearings, got his tyres up to temperature, he'll be trying to make a move. This track, you will notice, and iRacing simulates this pretty well, a lot of grass and gravel gets kicked up on the race circuit around here. You will start to see that on the track, and it does make a difference on iRacing. If you run over some grass or gravel when you got a bit of wheel in the car or you're locked up a little bit, it can cause you to slide. And I think I thought Verity might have tried to make something happen there, but not yet.
It was awful close. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't. Maybe he's waiting here for the front stretch. Keeping an eye on it. We don't have to go to it, but Savoy is very much putting pressure on Clenard for third place as well. I'll give a shout if that starts to get any closer. And here we go. Down into Tarzan. Verity is onto the inside, and it looks like Verity's got it.
Yep, Severity takes a position, but we jumped up to the spot to third there a little bit as well, because it is close, Joe. You're right, this battle for the podium position is on. Soroy is all over the back of Clenard. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of Noah's Ark going on throughout the top 8. 5th and 6th are together on track, and 7th and 8th are together on track too.
Yeah, it's you can practically, actually, yeah, you can see there in the camera shots both battles right there. So drivers actually using a little bit of that toe to stay with one another. As they come down here into Hans Ernst one more time. Clenard still successfully staying on the podium. Looks like Green still in that 5th place, and as well you can see Rain and Day back there just way in the back ahead of Sam Hermer. This is the spot where everybody is on the attack, onto that front stretch. Boy, it's going to be wild if iRacing gets the rescan and gets that banking into there, because it's going to be all the faster here into Tarzan. No change. Oh, maybe a change behind them. A big look to the inside from Quero on Green.
Yeah.
Let's look up from
like
onboard. Mauricio Quero. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no positional change, but as you mentioned, he definitely took a look, but Quero, yeah, he was having none of it. Green was having none of it, rather, and kept to his line, and Quero had to back off.
For fans who are looking at the paint scheme of Quero, wondering what part of Texas he's from the chilly part of Texas, actually. As he comes around Renault, looks like he's lost a little time to Green ever since that attack, so maybe he's having to reset up.
Yeah, it was a late move. I mean, I don't think that was ever on. Maybe last lap it would have worked, but I mean, he made the right decision to back out of it anyway. Let's see what happens, because this battle is definitely closing in on the battle for 3rd and 4th.
That's a good point. I hadn't even noticed that a little earlier, that Green is reeling in Soroy. So David might have to make a move soon here if Mitchell continues to reel him in. And I don't think we're going to see anything into Tarzan this time, because they are all spread out.
Yeah, our leaders just closed up a little bit. Holland caught a lapped car, the lap car of John Addison at a bad spot, and that allowed Greg Seitz to run right back up to his rear wing.
And that's telling, because remember last time I noticed it was lap traffic that he had gotten closer, so I suspect maybe the initial call that it was indeed a lapped car that caused issues that made them close up together. Meanwhile, don't need to go to a replay, but David McDonald had a big off in Tarzan this lap. He got it going, but he lost 2 positions in the process. That bumps him down to 11th. So we mentioned a little bit earlier of those Noah's Ark battles.
Sorry, side by side for 3rd. Clenard was offline to try and get by the lap car, and that allowed Soroy to get right up alongside him for 3rd place. He didn't make it stick, though. He just got alongside him, but I felt for sure there was going to be a change. What that has allowed, though, is it's allowed Green to run both of them right down. So now 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all in a tight train here, and Clenard could be a sitting duck if either of them gets a good run out of this corner.
Well, actually, looks like Savoy managed to get the best of the runs of anybody. So you're right. Clenard is going a little bit defensive, but too late on it because down to the inside goes Soroy. A big attack in the braking zone. He has the inside, and he's going to have the inside again coming into Gerlach and finally seals the deal there. That keeps Green, or gives Green an opportunity. He tries to come through on Clenard, but is not successful. So only one position lost, but obviously Rod Clenard under a lot of pressure now.
Yes, called David Soroy drained because he's in love with Tarzan after that one, helping him get up into third position. And now let's see if he can try and pull away from Clenard, because of course if Clenard ends up having to go defensive on Green, that'll be great news for Soroy. But right now, Clenard is all over the back of Soroy, and who knows, he might try and get it back next time around.
And I'd say that Caro is also not out of the question here, because I'm sure he'd love to see Green and Clenard start to fight. So watch off the back of Soroy down into Hans Ernst. Everybody accordions together, but nobody makes a move. They're all just staying right in line. We also haven't talked about the pit stops. That window is now open. Question is, do we see anybody of this group try to duck away and maybe take an alternate strategy?
Battling lap cars on the front straight in front of Holland. Fortunately, he's able to get by it before Seitz gets up to him. So this is becoming more and more of an issue. And look at that. Guerrero, really being aggressive to get by Green there. We also do have some lap cars choosing the pit early, so the drivers will have to be aware of that. We've already seen cars run out of track earlier today, resulting in incidents, and we almost saw another one there. It's Green off. Yes, he is. Back on the track and loses a position.
Ooh, we got to see on board what was going on with the hands of Mitchell Green, because he nearly caught that tire barrier on the exit of Gerlach. Here we go. There you can see he's had the line taken away from him. Great catch. Not a lot of panic you can see in there, and the Pennsylvania driver gets it going once again, but he falls to 6 as Caro fully gets by.
That's because they wear virtual helmets. That's why you didn't see any panic.
This is true. Man, you talked about that lap traffic. It was down to 0.3 of a second between Holland and Seitz once again. So Seitz has got to be aware of this. He has to be seeing that the gap is coming down every time they come up to that lap traffic. I have to wonder if the gears are already turning inside that helmet.
Yeah, well, normally it's more of a factor in oval racing, because oval racing kind of has the unwritten rule, just because of the way cautions work, that if you're the last car on the lead lap, you can fight the leader to try and stay on the lead lap. That's not normally the case in road racing, but we're almost seeing a bit of an oval race mentality here, in that the lead driver is having a harder time with lap traffic than everyone behind him.
We're riding on board with Seitz right now. We got a wreck in front of them. That was Kranefoos, and I'm trying to figure out Andy Spicer? Both cars who have had a lot of trouble today, and they were two completely separate incidents. How bizarre. Spicer's already had his spin, and there's Daniel just following suit behind him as the leaders stream on by.
Yeah, sometimes that could be an instance where you see a yellow flag waving and it just distracts you a little bit and you kind of make a mistake of your own. Could have been what happened here, yeah. That would be my guess.
So we come back live. Let's head to P7 because Sam Hermer is still right on top of Raymond Day. They've also got that lap traffic in front of them. You can see how close he is as we've jumped onto the gearbox of Day. Hermer's going to look to the inside as he's distracted by that traffic. He's given way, given him space, but Hermer can't seal the deal. He looks for the over-under as they exit out of Hans Ernst up into Kumho. Don't often see passes into here. It's off the corner that he wants to set it up. He's got to get a good exit. They swing around Lyondike onto the front stretch. They're both going to get a little bit of a tow from Josh Daniels in the 07, the lap car in front of them. But that's not going to be enough for Day. He is slow in a straight line. Here comes Hermer down to the inside, coming into Tarzan. Great on the brakes there for Raymond Day, trying to defend the long way around on the banking. Does give him a little bit of an advantage, and I think he's successful. He holds him down.
Yeah, nice defense there from Day, but he does have to get by the lap car of Joshua Daniels now. He's trying to get by, actually trying to unlap himself from David Blackwood. This is not good for Raymond Day. He's going to have difficulty getting by these two. Oh, they're going to go side by side. Could all get a bit ugly.
Say the track is blocked, and it looks like Blackwood just sends himself off the course to get out of the way, finally. Still, Daniel's not doing these two any favors. You're right. It looks like these lap cars really are not as concerned about those blue flags. And Josh is not a newcomer. Josh has been in this series for a while. I'm a bit surprised that he's not allowing them through quicker.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard job to do around here.
That's true. Well, he has left them behind a little bit here, so maybe he is kind of quicker than them on pace. I don't know. This is making life a headache for Raymond Day, that's for sure. And we saw, it seemed like, Sam, that he did not have the straight line speed last time on the front stretch, so this does not look good, as he actually has a bit of an off, and he doesn't need the front stretch. There goes Sam Hermer up into P7, just like that.
Yeah, I was about to mention for new viewers of the series that these are open setups, so that might be why you're seeing some drivers go a lot faster than others down the front straight. And obviously, I think that also helped Samuel Herner hold on to 7th position there.
Great heads up from Sam to manage to sneak through there and get into the top 7. But now he's drop day, which he isn't doing right now. They're still dealing with that traffic in front of them. And they've got a battle for position, I think, as well, with Hebert and Richards. Actually, no, that is not a battle for position. They are on separate laps.
Yeah, this is turning into a bit of a sports car race at times, isn't it? It's like, oh no, those cars aren't battling each other.
Meanwhile, I think we have a scheduled stop happening because Tyler Gore is in. Oh my goodness, the lap traffic is going 3 wide right now just as we cut away. And poor Sam Hermer almost made contact there. Might actually be worth a replay on this one. This is coming out of Vodafone. I thought he was going to clip the rear of Josh Daniels. Just managed to stay out of him. Look at him have to weave to the side. Oh. Man, great thinking, quick thinking there from Sam. Let's come back live. Hermer has used that traffic to good effect now, and Raymond Day has fallen away from him. Tyler Gore has returned back onto the track. He is in 20th place after that scheduled stop. Meanwhile, what's happening with our leader here? David Holland is got Greg Seitz holding at that 0.6 of a second behind. Now 0.7, as it's still hovering roughly about what it's been for much of the race at this point. And we are past halfway. Haven't seen an attempt from Greg Seitz quite yet. I wonder at what point does he say, I got to really push, I got to make an effort now?
Yeah, I definitely... Well, I mean, pit stops are going to be on his mind, but I don't think Greg Seitz has ever been taking it easy. I mean, we've seen him getting right up on the gearbox of Holland and using all the racetrack. And also, to go at the pace that these two are going at, they've got to be pushing it. You know, they don't pull away from the rest of the field by 10 seconds by being amateurs at this.
That's a good point. It does seem like it is pretty torrid pace between the two. We got to go back to Mauricio Quero, though. The Chilean driver, well, he's going to get the spot easily because Rod Clenard actually heads into the pits.
Soroy is in too. I almost wonder if when you see this many leaders coming in, if that means they have reached their fuel window and if pit road is about to get very busy in the next couple of laps.
And Rod was a little slow coming into his pit stall. It almost looked like he couldn't find it. He was blind a little bit behind Soroy. Soroy comes out in a little bit of traffic. Stephen Verity ahead of him. But they are now our two highest pitters. Soroy running 10th and Clenard in 12th. Well, a lot of traffic. This is not good.
Yeah, that was Clenard getting by Christopher Richards there. Richards moving out the way for Alex Gouillon now, who's having a pretty decent race going on in the top 15.
Taking a glance at Holland once again. They've now got Kiro, the car behind him, with Soroy having taken his stop. Are they going to respond? Really no urgent need to, since the undercut, especially with these new tires, probably won't mean a whole lot. As they come around Lion Dyke, you have to stay off to the right side if you want to pit in, and I'd say Holland is coming in, and so is Greg Seitz. Good call, Sam. It does look like it is the end of the pit window.
Holland getting very close to pit wall there on the right-hand side. Now, the question does become, has Seitz saved any fuel? Does he, has he done his calculations better than Holland? Yeah, I think Seitz was a little bit slower getting into his pit box than Holland, and Holland is a splash and go, and he's out quickly. Seitz not too far behind him.
Both of them very fast stop. Hopefully they didn't push it too tight on that refueling. Kiro is coming back out, but it looks like Soroy is going to be ahead of him. And that was Verity that we just saw spin off. Now, he has yet to take his stop, and that's not good because that's extra fuel for him to get the car going once again.
Yeah, and that's the second time we've seen him off at turn 1 today.
Clearly his Achilles heel, and eventually gets it going. He spins off to the inside mercifully, so he's out of the way of everybody. Returns to the track. We're still waiting on Verity.
We got another spinner down at the hairpin. David McDonald has gone around at the hairpin. Fortunately, he spun out of everyone's way, but that's going to cost him time.
He's down in 12th. Don't have the replay, it looks like, on that one. So among the top in our field, Holland and Seitz stay in position, but Seitz loses about half a second, maybe a little more than that, to David Holland. Soroy back out 8 seconds behind in third. Kiro is trying to catch up to him, and he did overtake Rod Clenard in that pit stop by about half a second. So that worked out well for the number 79 to get himself up into fourth. Clenard falls to fifth.
Things kind of settling down after the round of pit stop. Some cars still left to pit, but you see our class of the field still runs 1 and 2, a second between them right now. But now Seitz obviously will need to be a bit aggressive if he wants to take a win. And here Verity finally comes into the pit.
He's joined by Tyler Dzube. Those are our last 2 cars that needed their stop, so they're going to shuffle on down the order. Behind them, that does mean that Mitchell Green moves back up into 6th, Hermer back up into 7th. Raymond Day is down in 8th currently. And then our top 10 rounded out by Duprat, and then you mentioned McDonald having some issues.
Lauren Sebastian had just stopped entering turn 1, and a couple of cars had to drive around him. Sorry, that was a scary movement with cars in the pits there.
Was he coming out of pit lane? I did see at least one car do that earlier where they didn't think they were clear heading into Tarzan. Yes, indeed. There you can see he's exiting, so that's probably why he came to a halt, trying to stay off the racing line.
This is good intentions, but it almost ends in disaster.
Just waiting. Yeah, the other exiting car had to weave around him. Oh, the multiple cars. You were right. He really does come to a complete halt. There, he finally gets some clear track and eventually gets going once more. So who are our big movers? Well, right now I'm seeing Tyler Dzube up from... Oh, wait, no, he hasn't updated on my timing and scoring. He was... Looks like he is from 25th to 17th, which isn't bad. But Tyler Gore has gained a lot. And where is he right now? As we ride on board with him. 18th, it looks like. And that's from 32nd on the grid. That is with qualifying. Didn't really see a whole lot of Tyler, if we're honest. Meanwhile, we got a change for position. Matt Quinn. Oh, and a wreck behind them. Just behind them, a big accident with Owen McLaughlin and Stephen Verity again in the first corner. Oh, no. And it was Verity attempting a pass. That's McLaughlin in the red car.
Yeah, orange. They were 3 wide behind him. Oh, yeah, and Verity kind of won out on that and just got into McLaughlin. And very unfortunate for, well, there was 4 position.
Aren't you glad I said red on that one? See, ducks to the inside.
No, Verity locked up. He overshot the turn.
Yeah, it was an overambitious pass attempt that didn't work out. McLaughlin winding up upside down, naturally had to take a tow. So probably not going to be able to get back in this race with only 13 minutes on the clock. Down in 12th, Matt Quinn, who we were going to look at before, just overtook Guillaume, who's fallen to 13th now. Well, I say fallen, but he started this race in 17th, so he's still up a couple positions, not having the worst of days, but could have been a little better if he had managed to hold on to that one. They come around to the front stretch. Alex way too far back to get enough of a tow this time through.
I think we've made a few people excited about when Formula One finally gets to race here.
It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I was watching the cars coming down the front stretch. I cannot wait to see Formula One cars actually come down there in real life. Sadly, we won't get to see it this year, it seems, since unfortunately that race has been canceled. As we switch over to some of our cars battling up through the S's now. Quinn and Guillaume going by David A. Bear. A. Bear, one of our lapped cars, still trying to just get the laps in. They do have a rule in this series, Sam, that to get points, they do have to complete at least 50% of the race. That's why we're seeing so many actually take the cars back out and at least try to get what they can.
Good news for anyone who crashes now, obviously, is we're way beyond the halfway point of a race. The good news for David Holland is he's holding a 1 second lead over Greg Sykes with just a little bit over 10 minutes to go. Like you mentioned, Joe, our 2 leaders are very short pit stops, so I hope this race doesn't go on much longer than what either of them were anticipating.
Keep a close eye on it, because if they do get an extra lap, it's not a track where you can really coast around to. As we ride on board with our leader, there's the comparison between their 2 stops, and just a 10th between them, at least in the pit stall. And then in and out is where it seemed to really make the difference.
Yeah, but these 2 have definitely proven themselves to be the class of the field again today, and hopefully we'll have another great championship fight between them. Hopefully a little bit cleaner this season, and we'll see who comes out on top. But with a 38-car field, we've definitely seen how exciting the series can be. Plenty of cool stories throughout the field. Lionel Duprat, for example, has gone from 11th to 9th. Ty Gore has gone from 32nd to 15th. Even drivers further back in the field, like David Hebert. I know he's multiple laps down, but he started 35th and he's now in 27th. So great days around for Lionel, Ty Gore, and Hebert. Oh my.
Now, there was a car off track and didn't see. That was in Vodafone. Trying to find it. I'm guessing that was just a lapped car. I think, yeah, that was Sheldon Rosenbaum. He's in 14th now. He is not a lapped car, but it looks like he got it going once again. You know, the interesting thing I find about that battle for the lead, Sam, is even though it's been something of a stalemate, I think the fact that it is a stalemate, despite Seitz qualifying ahead of Holland, is telling, because it seems that these 2 are once again incredibly even matched, and I almost wonder if in a lot of the season it'll be down to something like this as we watch this great battle here between Tyler Gore and Olivier Legault. I wonder if the battle is going to come down to essentially who gets the first corner first.
Well, today it might be because of how hard it is to pass around here, and as I say that, Olivier is trying to prove it's not hard to pass. and we'll make a move on Ty Gore, one of the drivers that just gave a shout out in a bad Wizard of Odds pun. And there he goes, Ty Gore down to 16th and Lego up into 15th.
Like you said, still not a bad day for Tyler. And Zube is actually in this fight too. That is for position. He's the green SRT machine that you see just behind them. So they do need to keep an eye on the mirrors just in case. Now down to 8 minutes left to go. And a lot of the drivers have spread apart. You talked about that social distancing joke. And honestly, the battles are kind of drifting away from one another. As Dzube just got by Gore in an unusual spot. This is in Renault. Did Gore outbrake himself, or what happened here?
Be my guess. Seems he's been going in the wrong direction. Yeah, he might have just gave it to him.
Yeah, I wonder if he is happy with how many spots he's gone forward. Oh, is he maybe out of fuel? He's going very slow right now. Oh, wait, no. He's letting leaders by. So maybe it was blue flags.
Still very slow, though. It could be a combination, Joe. He might realize that he's going to be a tiny bit short on fuel, and so he's not putting up too much of a fight and just coasting around. But it's still very early in the race to be doing that.
Well, I mean, I guess save the fuel now so that you don't have to later. And he does have a gap behind. It's about 7 seconds down to James David in 18th. So he is able to slow up a little bit here. Not too much, though. I won't want to give away more than maybe a second a lap here in these final stages of the race.
Lionel Duprat just put a couple wheels off in the final turn from 9th, and that gives that position to David McDonald.
Great day for David McDonald. He's gone from 12th now up to 9th place. It's hard to get positions up at the higher end of the field, so those 3 spots are valuable. Let's watch an onboard real quick to see how this happened with Lionel Duprat, because I didn't even get to catch this myself.
Yeah, I think it was just an unforced error. Well, it's already happened by this point. Go back a few more seconds. Well, there we go, the pass for position. Now we'll get a replay of what led to that pass to position. He just overshot, and actually quite a good save. A nice job of just keeping it pointing in the right direction. And you can see the fans celebrating in the background.
I tell you what, though, you talked about the lucky save. Pratt actually got a little bit in the air from a bump in the sand there, so not something you generally want to do in the Formula 3 car is get 4 wheels off the ground. Meanwhile, if we jump back to our leaders, Seitz closed it down to about 0.8 of a second for a moment. Holland, though, is going by lap traffic. This is Dzube that they're overtaking right now, so maybe that has split them back apart. As Seitz also has to deal with it. He finally gets by, and it has gone back up to where it was before, just over a second now.
Yeah, I mean, the bad news for David Holland is the lap traffic's going to keep coming at him. The good news for him is, obviously, compared to earlier on in the race, lap traffic might not be involved in as heavy battles. You know, they've spread out from their opponents, and so they might be more willing to just let Holland by at this point.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is a big relief for David Holland that he doesn't have to get caught out as much by them. Olivier Legault is the next one, so he lets him by. And he puts a car between himself and Seitz. That's not the only battle going on, though. Clenard, who seems to be slipping backwards a little bit. He started in 3rd, he's down to 5th, and he's under threat to fall to 6th now because Mitchell Green has caught up to the back of him. You can see there's about half a second between them. And if he gets a good enough run, actually, he could get himself a chance down into Tarzan.
See if he can get a nice run out of a final corner here. Obviously, if he has a preferred setup, you know, a bit of a lower downforce, more streamline trim on that car, that would help him. It does look like he's got around, and that was a very late defensive move from Clenard, and that's going to end in tears. It looks like Green might have got away with it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it was a defensive move. I think Clenard was just trying to turn into the corner. But it came out very bad for Rod. So Green continues on and is now within the top 5. Hopefully not too damaged. Watching one more replay on it. Green's car looks okay from what we saw there. Clenard, sadly, a DNF from that. He will get classified in the end, but I think, let's see, probably be about 2-3 laps down here, so he'll be down in 20th or thereabouts.
Yeah, I didn't. The way Clenard turned in on that corner didn't look natural to me, but I don't know. Each driver will have their own view on that. Hopefully, it's the last incident we see towards the end of a race, and I say that because the gap between the leaders is still less than a second, with only a few laps left to go.
They'll get 2 to go next time by. Actually, it might be the white flag next time by. Yeah, white flag next time. This is Paul Clist in front of our leader. Paul started this race in 36. He's up to 24th. Hasn't really shown up a whole lot, so I think he's just keeping the car planted on the track. Having a little bit nicer day today, it seems, than he did in the GTE cars.
Yeah, Greg Seitz, so not too pleased with him right now. He's not getting out the way, and that's going to create a little bit of a gap between our two leaders. Greg Seitz comes over into him, and we've got a car off in the background as well. Oliver Legault just went into the wall.
I saw that as that was happening. Legault, yeah, he definitely contacted the tire barriers there, and there you can see Legault's incident that was going on simultaneously. Oh, boy, he slapped it relatively hard. Kind of amazed the car's still going. Boy, that lap traffic was an absolute nightmare for the 74. It's 2.5 seconds up to David Holland, and right as they come down to the final laps here, which it is indeed, Holland coming across the line with 1 to go, just under it. If he had been any quicker, then he might have had that extra lap we were talking about, Sam, that the fuel could have been a little shy.
Yeah, I'm sure Greg Seitz won't be pleased with the way he was treated by that lap traffic last lap. But for any consolation, David Holland has been getting the short end of the stick on pretty much every other lapped car they've approached today. It's just unfortunate for Greg Seitz at the time he got the short end of the stick. It was with 2 laps to go.
And the good news for Holland fans is that there is no lap traffic in front of him until you get to Sheldon Rosenbaum, who's probably a good a dozen seconds up the road. So not likely to catch him here on this final lap with just 30 seconds left to go on the clock. The opening round is looking like it's going to go in favor of David Holland as long as he brings it home safe.
Yeah, we've had a big crash on the final lap, but we'll watch us finish here.
We'll go back to that in a second. David Holland, well, for a second, I thought that shadow was a piece of debris there on the track. I thought he hoped he wouldn't hit it, but that was just a bit of shadow. He's going to come out of Lyondike. No worries for the number 18. He's going to kick off this latest attempt at a championship with a victory here today at the Netherlands. And Greg Seitz, who put it on pole, could not bring it home in first. He finds himself finishing second. But David Soroy, how about this run from 5th to 3rd for him and rounding out your podium?
All right, let's see if Paul Clist can pull off a Gilles Villeneuve here and get his car across the finish line on 2 wheels. I don't think it's going to happen. He just took a toe into the pits, but there was a massive crash involving him and a couple of other cars on the final lap.
Well, you wanted it, and you almost got it. So let's go to that replay now, because I actually haven't seen what exactly happened. Looks like this is in Renault. Did it start with Clist?
Yeah, he spun and 2 more cars piled in there. I don't think any of those were lead lap cars.
It's Richards and Hebert were the 2 that got into him, unfortunately. Both just kind of innocent bystanders. You can see That new damage model on iRacing continuing to be tested on this car. It still looks spectacular every time we see it. Fortunately, not the spectacular ending these drivers wanted, but we got a good race today, and we're going to talk about it in a bit in our post-race show. Don't go away, because we'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews with you soon after this break. Welcome back to Zandvoort. We watched round one just now of the PRL Formula 3 series. David Holland, who started on the front row, wound up finishing on the top spot, taking the win once again, with Greg Seitz finishing in second. The good news is, at least they didn't have any ghost contact today. Of course, David Silroy finishing in third behind them, with Mauricio Quero, a very hard fighting driver today, going from sixth to fourth. Mitchell Green finishing in fifth, with Sam Hermer in sixth place. Raymond Day takes the seventh, a gain of 3 spots from where he started, with David McDonald finishing in eighth. Then it's Lionel Duprat in ninth, and Brett Thurman rounding out your top 10.
Not sure if we mentioned this guy at all today, but Matt Quinn finished in 11th ahead of Alex Gouillon and Sheldon Rosenbaum. He was the last drive on the lead lap. 1 lap down was Tyler DeZube, and behind him was Tyler Gore. James David finishes in 16th place ahead of Daniel Crainfus back in 17th, and Olivier Legault in 18th place despite that late off. He was the last car 1 lap down. Rod Clenard, boy, what it could have been for him. Unfortunately, a collision towards the end sees him down in 19th in the order ahead of Daniel Barnett.
Then from there, it's mostly drivers who finished either multiple laps down from incidents they had early in the race, or those who DNF'd. Unfortunately, out of our 40-car field, quite a few having issues out there on this narrow and twisty circuit. We do have our winner with us. David Holland joins us in the booth. David, congratulations on the victory. We were talking in the race that it seemed like today, one of the defining factors of the race was you getting to the lead in that first corner.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on this track, it's such a tough track already, and the car combo here with the high downforce, it is 100% concentration the whole time. There's hardly any passing opportunities. You pretty much have to wait for a mistake. So yeah, I mean, getting out there in front, that was huge tonight.
We did notice early in the race that a couple times Greg Seitz seemed to gain on you, but our theory was it seemed to only happen when you caught traffic. Was the aero wake particularly bad today if you started to close up on lapped cars?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a few turns here, especially the downhill right-hander. I mean, you you pretty much have to let off and almost brake, where most of the time, you're full throttle. So it's a huge factor on some of these turns because the car is just so on edge. But yeah, I mean, Greg was breathing down my neck that whole race, and it was definitely close. It was a good run by him for sure.
Well, it certainly seemed like it was a decent race for you today. I noticed that you got what looks like a little bit of, is that a new livery on the car that you just put on this season?
Yeah, it is. We've got Christian Gritzko back there in the paint booth working it for us, and we're all really happy with how they turned out for this season. They look pretty slick.
I agree. It looks like a fantastic new paint job you guys have got. Well, again, nicely done, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more this season.
Sounds good. Thank you, Joe. Real quick, I just want to thank NinjaTrader and also ButtKicker this season. Appreciate them coming on board. And as always, PRL and you guys.
Well, thank you very much as well. And up next, I believe we've got Greg Seitz ready to talk to Sam.
Yeah, Greg Seitz finishing in second place today. It wasn't the win, Greg, but it was still a good way to start off a season. How you feel?
Yeah, feeling pretty good, but a little disappointed since I had pole, and once again, bad start kind of set the outcome of the race. I think I had pace over David in this one. Every time we got separated by a little bit of traffic, I would close back when we had clear air. So, and also it was super frustrating at the end there with the traffic.
Yeah, no, I noticed that you had a little bit of banning wheels with the lap car with 2 laps left to go. That kind of sealed the deal, honestly. Do you think you could have done anything with David Holland, though, even had that not happened?
At that point in the race, probably not. But yeah, it's just really frustrating because I wish the guys would just, back out in a straightaway instead of try to fight you through a turn when you're basically on the last couple laps. So yeah, just really frustrating from that point of view. But I don't think in the 2 laps I had left, I would have cut David anyway.
How was it racing out there? This is a very tricky track. We even heard our race winner saying, that this is a hard combo. How did it feel, and was it enjoyable?
Yeah, I actually thought it felt fine. I didn't really, both of us, I noticed we didn't take tires, so I was hoping to jump him with the tires, but I guess he felt his tires were in good shape too, because I wasn't feeling a lot of tire wear. It's one of those tracks where you have to kind of ride it out to the limits, but if you do, it's not so bad. I don't think I had any real moments, so it felt actually pretty comfortable considering it was a pretty hot track. And then, of course, following in David's slipstream is always a little bit difficult with the aero push, so... But yeah, I had a good time out there.
All right. Well, you had a good time and finished second, but hopefully we'll see you back at Montreal, I believe we're going to next week, and let's see if you can switch a result around there.
Yeah, I'm going to give it my best shot. I want to give a shout out to my new team, or not new team, but our additional team members. So it looks like as a team we placed pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with that.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, Greg. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we've got our third place finisher, David Soroy, who managed to move himself upwards in this race, going from 5th to 3rd. That's got to feel like a pretty good accomplishment, David.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Today is my birthday, so a podium is a nice gift.
Oh, well, happy birthday. That is a nice gift for you. Do you consider Zandvoort one of your stronger ones here kicking off the season? Before it wasn't a track we saw a lot, but it's seen an uptick lately.
I love this track, and the car was feeling very good here. Thanks to Lavoie Motorsport and Nitro 360 and Karting Offered for giving me a good car. Yeah, I love this track, and with this car, it's very fun to drive.
And speaking of tracks and being particular to them, you've got one of your home tracks, Montreal, coming up next week. Do you think you'll fare well there? Or is that a tricky one with the street course walls being so close?
Well, it's very hard to say. I can't tell, honestly. We'll see.
All right, it's a little bit of uncertainty, it sounds like. David, apologies that this one's got to run a little bit short, but we've got another broadcast coming up pretty quick here. Congratulations, and anyone you'd like to thank before you go.
Well, like I said, the Lavoie Motorsport, Nitro 360, and Karting, fantastic job.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. That was David Soroy, third place finisher here today, with a big thank you to our viewers for tuning in. We got to close up ourselves, so let's thank our sponsors, NinjaTrader, who can be found at ninjatrader.com if you want to see what they can do for you, and also to ButtKicker. They have their sim rig enhancements available at thebutkicker.com. Also, thanks to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe so you don't miss one here on the network. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Sam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check us out on social media, with our Twitter being at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, heading off to Canada for the next round will be Thursday, March 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.